afternoon and welcome to First Financial Biz Beat presented by the Business Courier. I'm KYLA Woods. Well, the days of your fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers MBA are over. On the front page centerpiece this week, the MBA reboot. Enrollment is rising, led by more women and people of color. Schools are rolling out more flexible programs to attract students, and nowhere is there more of a boom than right here in Greater Cincinnati, where enrollment is outpacing the rest of the country. Hillary Burns wrote this story, and she talked about the new math of higher education with Courier editor Rob Dahmeyer.
Thank you very much. Hillary, thanks so much for being here all the way from Boston. Hillary works for the Boston Business Journal, which is a sister paper of the Cincinnati Business Courier, and she was the lead writer on the MBA package that is running this week in the Business Courier. Again, Hillary, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Why did our parent company, which is called American City Business Journals, why did we decide to do this project to begin with?
It's interesting. We have heard and run stories in all of our markets about how full-time MBA programs are kind of going away and disappearing more and more. But when we actually dug into the data, we saw that enrollment has increased quite significantly. So since 2002, there's been a 46% increase in MBA enrollment across the country. And for comparison, for colleges and universities at the undergraduate level, it's only been an increase of 6% during that same time. So we kind of were wondering, well, what's driving that growth if we're seeing the full-time programs going away? And when we looked at it, it really came down to online programs and part-time programs popping up at schools across the country in all different cities. And those are more accessible, more flexible for a broader range of students. So that's really where the growth is. So we decided to dive into it and kind of lay that out and call some of these schools and ask them about their strategies and how they've gotten to this point.
So is that where this project started? Was it with conversations with people, or did you look at the data first? How exactly, and this is a big, as our readers will see, this is a big project that our company did. I'm just wondering how it got started. Like, what was the germ of the thing?
So it was a team effort, but we definitely looked at the data first and noticed those trends, and then dove in and saw what schools are seeing the most growth, and even for traditional full-time programs, which of those have become more diverse over the years. And we started calling schools based on the data and set up interviews. And it was really interesting once we dug into it. Like I said, there's been an explosion in online and part-time programs, so we kind of lay that out in the story. But then we also, for example, talked to Vanderbilt, which is a prestigious university with a well-regarded MBA program. And it was interesting when we talked to them, they said, actually, we're noticing those same trends. So we have overhauled our recruitment process for our MBA. So instead of kind of, I think all schools, not just Vanderbilt, all top elite schools used to take the approach of we'll sit in the ivory tower and the students will come to us. And instead they decided to take a more proactive approach and actually recruit students. And they realized they needed to also reduce barriers to entry, because not everyone can afford and go through the arduous process of applying to an MBA. So they took away application fees for many people. They temporarily took away the GMAT requirement, and they said that process has led to a big uptick in applications.
How much of this growth is being driven by companies and what they are demanding or wanting from workers, and how much of this is driven by just the simple idea that people want to be more saleable when they're hitting the market?
I think it's a combination of both, because the MBA programs work closely with local employers to make sure what they're offering, what the local employers need. But at the same time, I think people want to further their education and they want to be eligible for higher salaries and have that higher education experience of an MBA, but not many people are willing to give up 1 to 2 to 3 years of salary and go full-time student. That's a big sacrifice. So I think that the part-time and online programs you can do on the side of a full-time job or part-time job is more attractive to a more diverse pool of candidates, which in turn is making our workforce more diverse.
Right. Last question for you. Was there anything that surprised you when you were digging into this, whether it was somebody you talked to or a piece of data, something that really jumped out? I mean, you gave that pretty incredible stat at the beginning here about how it's grown, but what did you hear?
Well, that was surprising, and just the overall kind of trend of online learning becoming more desirable for people. But I think what's also interesting is how the coronavirus plays into this, and I think that's only going to accelerate these trends now that everyone's working from home. Learning from home is more normal now at all levels because it was forced upon us that way, but that's only going to accelerate the desire to do school online and part-time. So I think that surprised me.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, I have 2 kids in college, and, we're paying a pretty hefty price for them to be half remote right now and maybe full remote. Who knows, how this semester is going to go. But I think people are willing to pay for good online learning, and MBA certainly could benefit from that. Well, thank you very much for being here, Hillary. Really appreciate your time, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And back to you.
Thanks for that great interview, Rob. Well, tech is king at NKU. The new gift ensures the school not only continues to lead the region, but creates a pathway for more women. The gift from Dr. Carol Swartz will create the Strauss Professorship of Computer Science. It's the first endowed faculty position awarded to a woman in the College of Informatics. Alina Campen is the first recipient. The professor of computer science has won national awards for her work on data mining. NKU is also helping small family-owned businesses struggling in the age of COVID. The Family Business Relief Program brings students of all majors together to help businesses with technology and website design. Students develop and update websites and social media accounts, things small businesses may not have the resources to do right now.
Well, not every small business or every family business was set up to do that. And so what we've been able to do is actually help them develop a technology solution, which is pretty much through their website to where somebody could order takeout.
The free service is possible because of a grant from the Dries Family Foundation. The streetcar is getting some help from the feds. The Transportation Department is giving the city a $566,000 grant. The money is part of the CARES Act and is meant to support public transit across the country. Streetcar funding was at the center of vetoes over the summer. Council voted to make the streetcar free to ride, but Cranley vetoed that. Council overrode that veto last week, making it free for passengers. Single-use plastic grocery bags are a thing of the past in Cincinnati. City Council voted in favor of eliminating them come January. This applies to any business that sells food. City Council member Chris Seelbach believes this will not only cut down on litter and help the environment, it will also save the city money. A century ago, Court Street downtown was home to a thriving market. Now it's essentially Havre Blais and some offices. But you can tell there's potential. The city sees it too. Renderings show what it will eventually look like. It includes just one lane of traffic and wider sidewalks, creating more space for outdoor dining and events. There's also public art installations and a seating area, and the city sees it as the next great civic space.
It, I hope, will become very much like the investment that the city made in Fountain Square, Washington Park, Ziegler Park, all of which had some initial concerns on the part of some people at the beginning, but when they came to fruition, have been invaluable in creating a sense of place as well as pride in the city of Cincinnati.
There will also be less parking spaces on the street, but that will be alleviated with a nearby parking lot. Another corporate headquarters is moving to Covington. M&M Service is relocating from Silver Grove. It's bringing with it its 48 employees and plans to hire 16 more. The company builds gas stations. It's moving into a building on East 15th Street, and they hope to be settled in early next year. The Bengals are back tomorrow. The team kicks off the 2020 season against the Chargers at Paul Brown Stadium. Of course, things will be a little different. No tailgating and no fans. So everyone will be watching the debut of #1 overall pick Joe Burrow on TV. The rookie was named a team captain this past week, and he has some lofty goals.
If you're not striving for a championship, for perfection, what are you doing it for? That's, I'm not out there to win, go 500 and, squeak into the playoffs. I'm here to win games and win championships. Kickoff
against the Chargers is tomorrow at 4:05 right here on Local 12. Fans will eventually get to see a game at Paul Brown Stadium. Governor Mike DeWine granted a variance that will allow the Bengals to have 6,000 fans in attendance. There are rules like wearing masks, and it will only be for 2 games. October 4th, the game against Jacksonville, and October 25th, the game against the Browns. Up next on First Financial Biz Beat, the beer is flowing at the city's 2 newest breweries, while a distillery's bourbon is named the best in America. Just minutes ago, Cincinnati's newest brewery opened its doors. Rebel Metal is right next to the old Campanello's Italian restaurant on Central Avenue. It's the Central Business District's first new brewery in decades. Today is a culmination of a 5-year process for Michael Brown. The Air Force veteran was working in corporate America when the idea came to him and his buddies.
The idea came to us and my other managing partners, Greg Goki and Dwayne Donahue. We were brewing a batch of beer at home, and it was, what could we do together for the rest of our lives and go to work each day and have a smile on our face? And the brewery was at the top of the list.
The brewery's focus is lagers, a change from most craft breweries where IPAs are the star. Rebel Metal is also partnering with the E&O Kitchen for its food menu. On the other side of town, Braxton is making its Cincinnati debut. The Covington Company is opening its first Ohio location today at the old 3 Points in Pendleton. The company is using the brewing equipment already in place to continue brewing unique beers. The restaurant group that owns Parlor on 7th, next to Braxton's Covington flagship, is working on a new food concept to take over to the former Chicks connected to the tap room. A local distillery is bringing home some hardware. Sycamore Distilling's Ohio Straight Bourbon got gold in the U.S. Open Whiskey and Spirits Championship. The distillery also took home another gold, a silver and a bronze medal also for some other products. Sycamore Distilling's operations are at March 1st Brewing in Sycamore Township. There are plans to open a standalone distillery in Milford next spring. Impact 100 hosted its first virtual annual award ceremony Thursday night. 4 $100,000 grants went to deserving local nonprofits. This year's winners: Changing Gears, Women Helping Women, Gateway Community and Technical College, and New Life Furniture Bank. Congratulations to all of the winners, and you can find out more about Impact 100's grant process by visiting their website at impact100.org. It's quite the year for United Way of Greater Cincinnati to get new leadership. And just after the change at the top, the pandemic hit. And that changed everything and created a new sense of urgency. First Financial Bank is a proud partner of United Way. Mandy NEELEY talked about the importance of that partnership, especially this year, with Courier Market Engagement Director Kelly Snyder.
Thanks, KYLA. Mandy, thanks so much for being here. You are the chair of First Financial's 2020 United Way campaign. Tell us why First Financial works with United Way to fundraise.
Yeah, United Way for us has just been such a good partner, and they, the approach that they take to the whole family, and really, looking at financial education, things that fit within the bank's really core mission of being embedded in the community. We have, there's such great synergy. So for us to have a partner that we can work with, we can help give funds to, that is in alignment with what is important to us, has been great. And I think it's been a really nice way for us to be able to direct our associates to not only give financially, but also through volunteerism. So we've had a great partner, and Archie served as the chair for the whole United Way Greater Cincinnati campaign last year. So we've had deeper relationships even built over the last year, but our history has gone back with them for a long time.
Sure. So why do you feel that it's so important to give, and especially during a year like 2020?
Yeah, It's such an important year, and it's a hard year, to be honest. So as chairing this year's campaign, really want to remind our associates that we need everyone to come together. And this is the most important year. We've really, we have come together all year long to really help our clients in a difficult time, to help our teammates, and this is a way for us to help our community in a stronger way. So we know that there's a lot of need. We know everybody's going through different, variations of stress through a very difficult time. So our theme this year is really one team, one goal, coming together. We know some can do more than others, but that together we can do a lot. So really just reminding ourselves that what we do is important. The need is still there, and we have a role to play, and we think that we can play a strong role.
Well, that's great. Thank you for everything that you and Archie and the bank have done for the community. And again, thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. And with that, I will toss it back to KYLA.
Thank you, Kelly and Mandy. And still to come on First Financial BizBeat, what it's like to take over a large school district in the midst of a global pandemic 2 weeks before school is supposed to start. Taking on the job as a school superintendent in a regular year is hard enough. John Spicer did it in the middle of a global pandemic. His first day at Milford was August 1st. Almost immediately, he had to decide whether to bring students back as scheduled 2 weeks later or push the start date back. He decided on the latter. He says it was the hardest decision he's had to make as an educator, but in the end, it was the right one.
In a COVID economy, you either have a job or you have kids. And somehow, as a school district, we have to marry those two things and bring them together so that our staff, students, and families are able to have an in-person, full experience. The best thing we do is teach when kids are in buildings and with our teachers.
Spicer says that data drives all of his decisions. Parents had the option of sending students to school or learning virtually. 75% chose in-person classes. A lot has changed with food banks this year. The Ducks didn't float down the river for the Free Store Food Bank's annual regatta, but the Free Store did sell a record 200,000 of them this year. And that will cover millions of meals for hungry children. CEO Kurt Reiber talked with the Courier's Chris Wetterick about offering hope in a hungry world.
Kurt, thanks for joining us today. You guys have been affected by the pandemic probably as much as, if not more than anybody. Back in April, we were talking to you about the supply of food at the Free Store and that you guys were down to about 3 weeks worth of food. Can you tell us a little bit about the status of things with your supplies today?
Well, obviously, the number of families that have been coming in have continued to expand. We're seeing a number of families that have been impacted by the furloughs, layoffs, and the business closures. Currently, right now, we have about 5 to 6 weeks of food based on our current food distribution, which is about 1 million pounds of food every week. Our biggest challenge right now, quite honestly, is that about half the food that we distribute is perishable food. So when you think about it, our refrigeration and freezer capacity has really been outstretched. And that's one reason why we've launched a capital campaign called Growing Beyond Hunger. And that is a way for us to expand our refrigeration and freezer capacity to really meet the needs of the families right here that we're serving in the tri-state area, because there's about 270,000 individuals that are dealing with food insecurity. About 80,000 of those are kids.
Great. So tell me a little bit more about how you're keeping up with the increase in demand and what that has looked like and how much of it stems from the economic downturn that has accompanied the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, you have to understand that before the pandemic, 1 in 7 of our neighbors were dealing with food insecurity. 1 in 4 of those were kids. And when we talk about schools not being open, 8 out of 10 kids in the 20 counties served by the Free Store Food Bank are eligible for free and reduced lunches. So when they're not in school, they're not receiving the food that they need. We have actually received a tremendous outpouring of support from our community. The family foundations, Greater Cincinnati Foundation, United Way have always rallied behind the Free Store Food Bank in this time of dramatic need. We've also received phenomenal impact from our national office in Feeding America. We've got that in terms of financial support as well as in-kind support. And we've also shared some best practices for dealing with this pandemic with our sister food banks across the country. Our team really knows that we're in a marathon here. This is not a sprint. We know that we have to plan out for the next 24 months or so, and that's what we've done. We've been able to take some of the resources that we've received and steward them very graciously and generously so that we can meet the needs of the families that we're serving, as well as build up the capacity of our 600 plus pantry partners that are serving the tri-state area.
Great. And then lastly, can you talk to me about any other special challenges that exist out there that COVID-19 has brought to the Free Store Food Bank?
Absolutely. When you think about the Free Store Food Bank, we have 120 amazing team members that are on the front line of hunger each and every day. However, without the volunteer support that we receive, we can't do the work that we need to do. We have over 13,250 volunteers that have been providing us 100,000 hours of volunteer service throughout the years. We've asked them to stay home. Fortunately, however, Governor DeWine and Major General Harris, who is the commander of the Ohio National Guard, has deployed 70 guardmen and women to the Free Store Food Bank in our Mayerson Distribution Center and our Customer Connection Center in Over the Rhine, and they've helped fill the gap of our missing volunteers. Now, we know that those guardsmen and women are not going to be here forever. In fact, they're starting to draw down their deployment as we speak. So we're encouraging folks right now to go to our website, freestorefoodbank.org, and click on the Volunteer Now button, because we can use those volunteers to come back. We are complying with all CDC guidelines, and we're keeping a very safe and sanitary work area for all of our volunteers as well as our staff. But being able to fill that gap for our volunteers is really a critical need right now for the Free Store. When you think about it, trying to get 1 million pounds of food out each and every week is really demanding an undertaking. So we can't do that without the National Guard being present, but if we can backfill that now with our wonderful volunteers, that would be an incredible resource for us.
Kurt Reiber, CEO of the Free Store Food Bank, thank you for being with us.
It's great to be with you as always.
All right.
Thank you, Chris and Kurt. And thank you for joining us for First Financial Biz Beat. For business news around the clock, visit CincinnatiBusinessCourier.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook and sign up for our daily emails. I'm KYLA Woods. Have a wonderful and safe weekend.